It started innocently enough, or at least, that's what you might have thought if you weren't watching Dillon Gabriel in action. One moment he's rolling out, trying to find a rhythm. The next, he's heaving the ball into what feels like empty air. Receivers blanketed, routes breaking down, and Gabriel left with nothing but frustration and a growing pile of incompletions. For a quarterback trying to solidify himself as the Browns' number 2, it was a nightmare unfolding in real time. Every throw seemed to highlight the inconsistency that had been quietly haunting him ever since he arrived in Cleveland. A handful of crisp passes might have suggested promise, but they were swallowed by a torrent of mistakes, missed reads, and plays that simply failed to materialize. Fans watching from afar weren't just concerned, they were alarmed. From the very first snap of joint practice against the Eagles, the writing was on the wall. Gabriel had been pegged to keep Shedeur Sanders off the field, to maintain his spot as the backup quarterback, and perhaps even to earn a starting nod if things aligned. But the field doesn't lie. Under relentless pressure from a defensive squad that seemed perfectly prepared for every bootleg and rollout, Gabriel struggled visibly. 4 sacks in 5 snaps, just 4 of them, wasn't a fluke. It was a glaring demonstration that the plan to prop him up as a reliable option was starting to crumble before everyone's eyes. There's a difference between a rough practice and a full-on unraveling, and what we saw wasn't just a stumble, it was a collapse that magnified every question about his readiness. And yet, the coaching staff stood firm, or at least, they appeared to. Head coach Kevin Stefanski insisted on keeping Gabriel in that coveted number 2 slot ahead of Sanders, despite what the stats, the film, and the obvious momentum were saying. Rumors about Sanders' injury swirled, but the reality was simple. Gabriel was being given the stage, and he wasn't handling it. Receivers were covered, running backs struggled to find space, and Gabriel's composure seemed to evaporate under the simplest of pressures. Watching him, you couldn't help but wonder, how much longer could this continue before it imploded entirely? The numbers told an even harsher story. 5 reps, 1 completion, 4 sacks, that's a 20% success rate in practice. That's not the kind of performance that earns trust, especially in a league where every snap is scrutinized, every throw analyzed, and every quarterback compared to the next rising star. If this was the peak of Gabriel's opportunity, the ceiling looked dangerously low. Fans were quick to notice, their excitement tinged with frustration and disbelief. How could a quarterback with such inconsistency be considered the answer even temporarily when someone like Shedeur Sanders was waiting in the wings? The contrast was already undeniable, and every sloppy pass, every hesitation, every moment of visible stress made the argument that much stronger. But the drama didn't stop there. Gabriel's confidence, while admirable, bordered on bravado. He insisted he was ready, that he could take control when the moment arrived. And yet, watching the tape, hearing the whispers from the facility, it was clear. This wasn't about a rookie feeling the heat. This was about a veteran, or at least a supposed steady hand being exposed under pressure, struggling to deliver when the spotlight was brightest. Each incomplete pass, each failed rollout, seemed to reinforce a growing narrative. The Browns' quarterback situation wasn't just unstable, it was on the brink of a seismic shift. By the end of that session, the storylines were impossible to ignore. Gabriel was faltering, Sanders was rising, and fans everywhere were beginning to realize that the battle for the Browns' future under center was no longer hypothetical. The drama was real, the stakes high, and the NFL world was about to witness a showdown that would redefine what readiness truly meant. This was the moment when a season, a franchise, and 2 young quarterbacks' careers all teetered on the edge. And as the first whistle blew, one thing was crystal clear. The quarterback saga in Cleveland had officially entered a new, unpredictable chapter. Once the initial shock of Gabriel's opening session settled, the focus shifted to just how deeply he was struggling under pressure. On the surface, it looked like ordinary preseason chaos, but the film told a different story. Every bootleg, every rollout, every attempt to find an open receiver ended the same way: barren fields and wasted opportunities. Receivers were double-covered or disappearing entirely from his peripheral vision, and Gabriel was left with only one option: dump the ball or force a throw that had no chance. Each decision seemed slower than the last, as if the pressure from Philadelphia's defense was squeezing more than just his passing lanes, it was squeezing his confidence. Under relentless defensive schemes, Gabriel's composure began to unravel. 4 sacks in 5 snaps was only the beginning. the hesitation in his eyes, the shuffle of his feet, the lack of conviction on throws all painted a portrait of a quarterback under siege. He looked smaller than the cameras captured, less like a player in control and more like a rookie trying desperately to survive a storm he hadn't anticipated. Observers in the facility could sense it immediately. Every throw that sailed too high, every missed timing route, and every misread coverage only added weight to the growing narrative. This wasn't just a practice mistake, it was a pattern. And in the NFL, patterns speak louder than any coach's words. What made this situation even more puzzling, or perhaps frustrating, was the coaching gamble behind it. Kevin Stefanski continued to insist Gabriel deserved the backup spot over Sanders, who was recovering from a minor injury. Fans and analysts alike scratched their heads. Was this a matter of loyalty, experience, or was the decision just plain misguided? Whatever the reason, the optics weren't great. Gabriel was getting a chance to shine, and instead of taking control, he was exposing every weakness in his game. It wasn't just about accuracy, it was about timing, poise, and awareness, all fundamentals of a quarterback who wants to be trusted in high-pressure situations. Reports from the field echoed the same grim assessment. Bootleg after bootleg, Gabriel was met with defenders who read his every move as if the playbook were written on his back. Receivers seemed unsure, hesitant to break open, further compounding his struggles. Even the running backs, often the safety net for a struggling quarterback, found no traction, making every play look smaller, tighter, and more constricted than it should have. Every failed attempt created more pressure on the next play, and Gabriel's reactions showed it. His hesitation grew, his rhythm disappeared, and his confidence took a hit that few expected to recover from in such a short period. The contrast with Shedeur Sanders couldn't have been starker. While Gabriel stumbled under the smallest amount of pressure, Sanders' presence, even while still nursing a minor injury, added stability, energy, and composure to every drill. Sanders wasn't just moving through the plays, he was elevating them. Gabriel's mistakes, meanwhile, weren't isolated incidents, they were cumulative. Each misstep reinforced the narrative that the Browns' coaching gamble might be backfiring before the season even started. By the time practice wrapped, the numbers told the story as clearly as the film. Gabriel had been sacked repeatedly, forced into hurried throws, and left with minimal success connecting with his receivers. It wasn't a single bad day, it was a trend. A visible unraveling under the kind of pressure that separates hopefuls from leaders in the NFL. Fans watching the joint practice didn't need insider access to see it. The plays, the body language, the hesitations were all there, impossible to ignore. And in the world of professional football, perception matters just as much as stats. Every failed play was more than a mistake. It was a moment of storytelling. Gabriel wasn't just struggling, he was telling the league, the coaches, and the fans that he might not be ready for prime time. With Sanders waiting patiently in the shadows, the gap between potential and performance grew wider with each snap. The pressure wasn't just on the field, it was mounting around him too, from fans, from media speculation, and from the inevitable comparison to the rising star on the roster. Gabriel's struggles under pressure were no longer just a story of one quarterback, they were the opening chapter in a drama that could define the Browns' season. When it comes to quarterbacks, nothing tells the story quite like the numbers, and in Dillon Gabriel's case, the stats were brutal. On paper, 5 reps, 1 completion, and 4 sacks might not sound like the end of the world, but in context, it was a red flag waving for everyone watching. That's a 20% completion rate in a controlled practice setting, without the chaos of a live game or the crowd noise that amplifies mistakes. For a player tasked with keeping Shedeur Sanders off the field, it wasn't just disappointing, it was damning. Every statistic, every number told a story of missed opportunities, of hesitation, and of a quarterback struggling to find a foothold. It wasn't just about the completions or the sacks. Look closer, and every throw revealed something deeper. Timing was off. Footwork was inconsistent. Reads were delayed, often forcing Gabriel into rushed decisions that led to more sacks or errant throws. The numbers weren't random, they were the visual representation of a quarterback under siege, unable to execute even the basics with consistency. 1 or 2 bad plays can happen to anyone, but when the pattern repeats itself over multiple days of practice, the most telling moments came during closed practices, away from cameras and headlines. In one red zone drill, the starting defense unleashed an all-out blitz designed to collapse the pocket instantly. While most rookies might have panicked or scrambled, Sanders sidestepped the pressure, rolled right, and threw an off-balance pinpoint pass to Amari Cooper in the back corner of the end zone. The sideline erupted, not just for the completion, but because everyone recognized the maturity behind it. This wasn't luck, it was preparation, poise, and instinct coming together seamlessly. Plays like this don't just win points, they change perception, solidifying a rookie's reputation long before the regular season begins. Coaches took notice too. Film sessions shifted, with Sanders' plays being used as examples not just for quarterback drills, but for teaching situational football across the offense. Head coach Kevin Stefanski would freeze the frame during sessions, highlighting Sanders' footwork, decision-making, and timing under pressure. These moments were educational gold, demonstrating that a player's rise isn't only about stats, it's about process, timing, and execution. Sanders became the standard, and the message was clear: this is the level to follow. Even the business side of football responded. Media requests doubled, national podcasts wanted him on the line, fan events were packed, and jersey sales surged. A rookie who hadn't played a regular season snap yet was already a cultural and marketing phenomenon. This momentum wasn't manufactured, it was earned through consistent performance, composure, and the kind of quiet confidence that inspires both teammates and fans. Meanwhile, Gabriel worked tirelessly, throwing extra routes, running drills, and staying professional, but the comparison was unavoidable. Sanders wasn't just completing plays, he was making them memorable. He elevated the energy of the huddle, instilled belief, and delivered under pressure. Every day he practiced, the narrative shifted a little more. The rookie was ready, capable, and increasingly impossible to ignore. By the time the final preseason game approached, the stage was set. Sanders had earned not just reps, but the attention and trust of the entire organization. The rise wasn't sudden, it was methodical, consistent, and undeniable. He had become more than a promising rookie. He had become the focal point, the leader, and the player everyone wanted on the field when it mattered most. The final preseason game wasn't just another drill. It had become a stage, a proving ground where reputation, preparation, and momentum would collide. For Shedeur Sanders, it was an opportunity to translate weeks of consistent excellence into undeniable performance under the spotlight. For Dillon Gabriel, it was a chance to reclaim relevance and prove that experience could still prevail. The tension in the Browns facility was palpable, and by the time the stadium lights glimmered over the field, everyone knew this wasn't a typical preseason contest. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation, and fans could feel it. This was a showdown that would define perceptions before the regular season even began. From the opening snap, Sanders demonstrated why so many teammates and coaches had rallied around him. His first drive was textbook precision, quick reads, crisp passes, and a calm command of the offense that instantly set him apart. He hit Jimmy Horn Jr. on an 8-yard slant, followed by a perfect 15-yard strike to Amari Cooper along the sideline. Each throw carried authority, each cadence signaled control, and every motion reinforced that he belonged in the pocket. When Carolina dialed up a disguised blitz on third down, Sanders didn't hesitate. He slid within the pocket, reset, and delivered a chain-moving pass to his running back. Observers in the stands and on the sidelines could see it. This was no ordinary rookie. It was a quarterback who commanded the field. Meanwhile, Gabriel's experience allowed him to maintain composure, but the contrast was unavoidable. Fans, already drawn to Sanders' magnetic energy, leaned forward in their seats, eyes glued to the rookie's every move. When Gabriel took the field, even the most supportive spectators seemed distracted, checking phones or scanning the stands. It wasn't a lack of effort. Gabriel threw accurately on short passes, protected the ball, and led methodical drives, but the spark, the energy, and the narrative had shifted. The crowd's emotional investment had pivoted, and in football, perception often drives momentum. As the first half unfolded, Sanders continued to make plays that were both effective and memorable. He led 3 scoring drives on 4 possessions, never forcing throws, never chasing heroics. Each decision showcased maturity beyond his years, taking what the defense gave him, hitting targets with precision, and making plays that elevated the huddle and energized the sidelines. A drive that included back-to-back first downs to Cooper, followed by a touchdown on a seam route to David Njoku, demonstrated his timing, awareness, and ability to make the right choice under pressure. Stats alone couldn't capture the impact his presence changed, how everyone played around him. By halftime, the locker room vibe had shifted decisively. Sanders' teammates were energized, animated, and fully bought in. Gabriel remained professional, shaking hands and offering support, but privately, everyone recognized the shift. The rookie had seized the moment. The final preseason game became an unofficial coronation, signaling to coaches, players, and fans that the quarterback hierarchy had realigned. The coaching staff watched closely, analyzing every throw, every read, and every decision. Stefanski's prior caution about rushing Sanders was now replaced by acknowledgement of undeniable performance. Here was a player who had earned the opportunity not by hype alone, but through preparation, composure, and repeated execution. His ability to remain calm under pressure, adjust mid-play, and elevate teammates distinguished him from Gabriel's erratic, if diligent, performances. Off the field, the ramifications were immediate. Media outlets buzzed, social media exploded, and fan engagement surged. Sanders had not only secured his on-field credibility, but had established himself as a marketable, magnetic figure capable of driving attention and energy for the franchise. The performance wasn't perfect, few preseason showings ever are, but it was decisive, persuasive, and, above all, transformative. When the final whistle blew, the narrative was clear. Sanders had done more than just perform. He had shifted the balance of power in the Browns' quarterback room. Gabriel had been professional, but Sanders had been undeniable. The decision for Week 1 was all but obvious, leaving fans, analysts, and teammates with a single resonant truth. A new era was beginning in Cleveland, and Shedeur Sanders was ready to lead it. The moment the Browns officially announced Shedeur Sanders as the Week 1 starter, the ripple effect was immediate, intense, and impossible to ignore. Social media erupted like wildfire. Fans flooded comment sections with emojis, bold predictions, and fervent debates. Every highlight clip, every pass, every practice snap from Sanders suddenly became a talking point, dissected by supporters, skeptics, and casual viewers alike. The reaction wasn't limited to local fans. Nationally, analysts scrambled to adjust their coverage, recognizing that a rookie quarterback with this level of hype and talent had become must-see television overnight. Local media outlets had a field day. Cleveland newsrooms devoted segments to analyzing Sanders' rise, comparing his preseason performance to past Browns quarterbacks, and speculating on what this decision meant for the team's immediate future. Team stores reported a spike in jersey sales as fans rushed to claim a tangible connection to the new face of the franchise. Sanders wasn't just a player anymore. He had become a cultural and marketing phenomenon, and every outlet wanted a piece of the story. The fan base was equally split, a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Loyalists of Dillon Gabriel were vocal, warning against rushing a rookie into the starting role. They argued that experience and steadiness shouldn't be dismissed, emphasizing the risk inherent in handing the reins to someone so young. Meanwhile, Sanders supporters celebrated what they saw as the inevitable, a fresh, dynamic quarterback capable of reigniting Cleveland's offense and restoring hope to a fan base hungry for results. This tension fueled a storm of online debates, live stream commentaries, and passionate discussions across podcasts and sports talk shows. Nationally, the narrative extended beyond football. Analysts explored Sanders' pedigree, his upbringing, and even his father's legendary status, framing him as a rookie with not only talent but a built-in storyline that captivated the public imagination. Networks highlighted the contrast between him and Gabriel, dissecting throws, footwork, and decision-making, effectively turning a preseason announcement into a multi-layered spectacle. Sanders' calm, collected demeanor in interviews, his lack of public rebuttals to critics, and his focus on preparation only amplified the intrigue, making him appear mature far beyond his years. Even casual NFL viewers, who might normally overlook a preseason quarterback shuffle, tuned in. The combination of high-stakes drama, an undeniable talent, and a compelling narrative turned Sanders into a must-watch figure. Social media engagement wasn't just about fandom. It became a conversation that crossed traditional sports boundaries, spilling into pop culture, commentary, mainstream news, and viral clips across platforms. In the midst of this frenzy, one thing became clear: Cleveland had a new face, and the media, and that's the beauty of moments like this in sports. They're never static. Every practice, every game, and every snap adds layers to a story that fans can follow in real time. Social media debates, analyst breakdowns, and locker room dynamics turn a preseason decision into a cultural conversation. As viewers, you're not just watching football, you're witnessing the unfolding of a potential franchise legend in the making, with all the tension, excitement, and unpredictability that comes with it. Now it's your turn. What do you think? Can Shedeur Sanders truly carry the Browns into a new era, or is this early hype setting up a challenge he'll need to overcome? Is Dillon Gabriel capable of reclaiming his role, or has the torch already been passed? The answers aren't simple, and that's what makes the story gripping. This debate isn't confined to analysts or coaches. It's open to every fan, every viewer, every person who's invested in the drama and the stakes. So drop your thoughts below, share your predictions, your doubts, and your excitement. Because the story of Shedeur Sanders isn't just about one rookie taking snaps, it's about the evolution of a franchise, the tension of competition, and the spectacle that makes football the ultimate stage for talent, ambition, and legacy. Stay tuned, because this saga is just beginning, and every play could change the narrative in ways we can't yet imagine.